What problems are troubling you? What's frustrating you, bothering you, worrying you? Want solutions? Want answers? Welcome to Here We Come to Save the Day, hosted by David Adelson. This podcast is dedicated to solving everyday and global problems in an uplifting, fun, enjoyable way. There is a solution to whatever's troubling you. Ask your questions and we'll do our best to give you practical, useful, workable solutions you can use starting today. Join us now with David's special guest experts who will share their own experiences, life lessons, and practical strategies for creating the life you long for. Start living your best life today, right now, with David Adelson and friends.
Good. So what we want to do before at the beginning of this show is we just want to take a moment and recenter with ourselves, within ourselves, and together so that what we give the audience is exactly what they need. So we're going to take a moment to do that today. And as soon as we're done with that, we're going to tell everybody today how to, well, you went broke at 50 and now live a basically retired life and you're going to tell people how to solve their money problems, as I understand it. And Rennie does, I'm here with Rennie Gabriel, and he does some amazing things to help you with your finances and turn them around. I know he's got some exciting tips that he'll give you today and something free that can help you actually, that you can put into effect today. So we're going to come back to that in a minute. First, we're just going to do a little recentering. And if you're not driving while you're listening to this, it's a good idea to close your eyes. And if you are driving, it's a good idea to not close your eyes. And I'll just say a little thing for a minute that may everyone involved on every level for this podcast today be open to receive and act on the highest and best wisdom for all concerned for the best possible outcome. So we'll move forward with that intention. Welcome, Kenny. Kenny. Rennie. I'm going to get that. I may get it wrong more than once because at the beginning he said, this is how you pronounce his name is Kenny. So it's Rennie with an R, R-E-N-N-I-E, Gabriel. He went from broke at age 50 to multi-millionaire in a few years while earning only $5,000 a month. And that is really what captures me, because you're not saying I did wheeling and dealing and I went to Las Vegas, but just on a steady income of $5K a month. He now lives on his investment income, and he donates 100% of his book training and coaching profits to sheltertoshoulder.org, where dogs are rescued from deadly environments and trained as service animals for post 9/11 soldiers who have returned with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and traumatic brain injuries. And before that we began, this is what I want to talk to you about is when you say 100% of, you said 100% of your work a minute ago. So tell me how that works. Are you living on investments and everything that you do? How talk to me.
Yeah, thank you, David. From all the online work where I'm coaching other people on how to handle money effectively so that they can become philanthropic, so that they can donate to the causes that touch their heart, I donate 100% of the profits. That's my books, that's my coaching programs, that's my one-on-one work. Anything to do with what I'm doing online, including my book, those profits are being donated to the charity. And the reality is, even if those profits are shy, I take money out of my personal pocket and donate to make sure Shelter to Soldier gets a lot of money.
That's so inspiring. And I know when you look at your website, your goal is to create philanthropists. Your goal is, and philanthropists, it just means your goal is to create people who are who wish well for the world and are in a position to do something. And we all know that in this current culture, those who have the money, if they wanted to, could solve all the world's problems in a decade easily with the resources that are already here. So this idea that you're targeting that is very exciting to me, because we actually put some attention on that years ago. But then how do you pay the bills?
Well, I pay the bills because prior to starting this online work about 6 years ago, I was investing in real estate. We have triple net leases. I've done peer-to-peer lending. I was an angel investor in a startup. So I generated a lot of money outside of my business, the online business, and the passive income from that is what supports our standard of living, that pays the bills, it pays the mortgage, buys the groceries. So I don't need any of the money that comes from my supporting other people to become philanthropic.
And here's the thing that I really appreciate you, Rennie, is you didn't just decide to go hang out on the beach or play with dogs, but rather you're working. I mean, whatever level of full time you have a regular work week. You put out a weekly newsletter, and you don't need to. This is just something from your heart, from compassion. What motive? Why do you? And you're bright and shiny. You don't look like you're tired or anything. So, what drives you?
A lot of people. But I'm 72 already.
No,
I'll be 72 this year.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm sorry for those of you who are not on the look. You should look at his picture on the page. This is not somebody who looks like he's 72. And I love your shirt. So, what is it that because it seems like you're very heart-centered, that your motivation obviously isn't money. So what drives you? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What makes you want to deal with people who must be loving you or sometimes annoyed with you, or you're sometimes annoyed with them? What's the dynamics here?
It's so funny because my wife says, Rennie, you're not motivated by money. And it frustrates her because I've come to the place where I say, we have enough. We don't need any more. You know, the home is paid for. We've got plenty of income that allows us to be charitably inclined. My wife is charitably inclined as well, so she has no problem with donating lots of our money to various charities besides Shelter to Soldier. So what gets me up in the morning is really being of service to other people, because I figure if I can fail high school math, if I can go broke 3 times, if I can collect soda pop bottles to get the refund money to buy food for my family because I am so broke, that I am so blessed at this point in my life that other people could do the same thing. I mean, there's nothing that special about me. I'm not super bright. I'm not about to be able to run a hedge fund. I can't build a large business, so that obviously being average or maybe even less than average, and I can create the level of wealth that allows me to, you know, not have to work for a living, but to choose to work. That just inspires me to say, you know what, if I can do it, others can do it too.
And I think that's incredibly in the best possible way. This is, you know, I know you talked about being an angel investor. This idea of wanting, I think it's the best way to be wealthy, is to have exactly that standard. And I think some people are sitting on the edge of their seats going, yeah, I want this too, tell me. So I'm gonna let's start with, do you feel that the major shifts and everything happened after you were 50 when you went broke, and that was when you figured out how to do all this? Is that accurate?
I would say there were transitional shifts where I was learning what could be done. I was noticing what other wealthy people were accomplishing and where they also had their weaknesses. And I was saying, oh, I don't need to know this or be able to do that to earn a lot of money. And so they were always occurring. I did have some what I would call light bulb moments at various times. And the first time I went broke, I was in my 30s, and I had a very upsetting experience where I had read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, which says, pay yourself first. Now, a lot of your listeners may have heard of the book, know of the book, read the book, and that's completely irrelevant if they're not practicing it. And I practiced it for about 10 months. I'd saved up $3,000 because I was earning $3,000 a month. So $300 a month, 10 months, I had $3,000 saved. So excited. And then I found out that the IRS wanted me to pay my income taxes, and the bill was $3,000. So what I'd saved up for 10 months all went in one fell swoop to the IRS. And I was so devastated by that I didn't pay myself first again for about another 8 years till I reread the book. Now, what I'm getting at is one of the things that I say continually is that wealth creation is a team sport. It is not a solo sport. And while I had built a business with some team members, I was handling the money by myself. I wasn't involving other people in what I was doing. I wasn't talking to other people about what I was doing. And had I done that, someone could have said to me, Rennie, don't be upset that the IRS took your $3,000 that it took you 10 months to save, because if you hadn't done that, you would have had to borrow the money to pay the IRS. Just continue to pay yourself first and make it more money. Pay yourself more than the 10%. But I wasn't sharing anything I was doing with anyone else, so that there was no opportunity for someone else to get me on the right road. And I wouldn't have had to wait 8 years to start reading The Richest Man in Babylon a second time.
Okay. What I want to do now is I want to start, because I think we've given people enough of a background. I know it with what their appetite. Let's go through some very practical steps that people at home can do. So you've just given us a couple, which is, pay yourself first and don't do it alone, which I think are very useful. What do you feel? Do you have like a top 10 or some key ideas of what you feel are the ones people should start with or start exploring first? When you have somebody new who comes to you, what's the first thing that you tell them? The first thing you do is
start asking questions. The questions are so invaluable. And that's one of the things that distinguishes ordinary people's thought patterns from the thought patterns of wealthy people. And so let me talk about, you asked if I have a top 10. Actually, I do. I have a top 3 for the attitudes of the wealthy. And I actually completed a book recently called Attitudes of the Wealthy, where I've listed over 30 of the kind of attitudes that wealthy people operate from. And I'm trying to figure out, should I offer that to, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to offer that to your listeners. It's a pre-release copy of the book, Attitudes of the Wealthy. If they go to my website, wealthonanyincome.com, and they ask for that, I'll send it out to them.
Okay. So that's wealthonanyincome.com, and all of the links that we talk about will be in the show notes. So if anybody listening, just go to the webpage and they can click on the links. So good. Okay.
So here's
thank you for that.
Thank you, David. Sorry.
Either one.
Yeah, I put you in my contact management as Dave, and then I would search for you as David and couldn't find you. So yeah, I'll fix that. But so some of my top ones, getting back to the difference between the way an ordinary person has their mindset and a wealthy person. Wealthy people ask questions when they hear familiar information. So if we look at paying yourself first as something that other people are familiar with, I've heard that, I've read the book, or I know that, whatever, making a statement like, maybe even I've done that before, is what an ordinary person does. What a wealthy person does when they hear familiar information is they ask questions. Questions that start with words like who, what, where, or when, or how. They don't ask the question why. That's a question that provides useless answers. And I'm not going to get into that, but a question like how would be, well, how do I start paying myself first? Or where does this apply to me? Or what money would I use? I mean, do I take a percentage of the gross or the net? I mean, those questions lead to the answers where someone can actually take actions and produce the result. So that's one of my top 3 attitudes of the wealthy is ask questions instead of making statements when you hear familiar information.
Cool.
I'll give you one more.
Please.
Wealthy people look at the big picture first and the details second. And we've all heard the expression, you can't see the forest for the trees. That meant nothing to me. I didn't understand what they were saying is the big picture versus the details. So what I did is I created a different analogy. So David, let me ask you, if you were going to cross the street and you focused on all the details, like how high the curb was and how large the cracks were in the street, or if there was an open sewer cover, or that you didn't want to step in any dog mess, and if all you did was focus on the details of crossing the street, would that be a safe way to do it?
Yeah, no, you'd end up in the hospital yeah. So that's perfect. That's a great analogy.
Yeah, the big picture is looking both ways before you cross the street.
And I love how practical and how relatable that is, because I agree with you. You can't see the forest for the trees. You have to think about what that means. Now, when they came up with that, probably everybody lived in forests and knew what they were talking about, but we don't. So good. So these are very useful. So again, let's I'm a new client, Bob is a new client, whatever, and we're coming to you now. Presumably the people that you're talking to have read some of your stuff. I know you want to offer our audience something, so you're going to give them a little background stuff. So what will they know when they first start talking to you?
Hopefully what they know or they can see is that I really care about them producing the results that are important to them in their lives. And one of the things I really have to overcome is the attitude that blocks them from creating more wealth, because our society does not value a financial education. And what I mean by that is people have been indoctrinated in a covert way that they're completely unaware of, to believe that only poor people are noble and kind and that rich people are greedy and heartless. And it's really a sad situation. I mean, if you look at fairy tales, if you look at books like things from Charles Dickens, you look at TV shows, you look at Hollywood movies, even look at the scripture, and you're getting this same message that only the poor are good. And I'll use one from the scripture. Maybe you've heard the expression, a camel can pass through the eye of a needle easier than a rich man can get into heaven. That gives you an idea that, oh, rich people can't get into heaven. That's not true.
Well, and I get that, and I've heard that, and I understand, because in my work, that's not the point, and it's not the correct translation. It's that people who are attached to money can't, as that's their God.
Oh, you're talking about the love of money,
and not versus having money.
Root of all
right,
no, but that again, that's from the scripture.
And again, that is, and it's not it's the whole point is the attachment to it, as in, I'll give a perfect example. I know of a story of a wealthy woman who inherited money from a liquor company. And she, I have a background in meditation. I studied with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who was, Beatles, everybody knows about that. Yep. And this woman went to him, and he was very benevolent. Again, his organization was never about money except to do good for others. So a lot of people in the US maybe pay more, but then he gives it for free in India or Venezuela or wherever. So it's all equitable like that. And she came to him and she was concerned about spiritual growth. And he basically said, look, the money that you've inherited, and he probably said it simpler, I wasn't there, but he basically said the money that you've inherited has been money created, wealth created by bringing down the consciousness of people, and you need to fix that. And he said, you need to give away 15% of your money. And he said, it doesn't matter to who. You just need to give it to a church, give it to something. And but the energies of that money itself, the impression that I got didn't allow her to do that, because there's an energy of money, which is a different topic altogether.
There's a reason money is called currency. It has to do with the flow of energy.
Exactly. And in an ideal time, the energy of money is about exactly what you're about, Rennie. It's exactly about, when we get money, what good can we do with it for ourselves and for others? And that's a really big part of the energy of money, but that has not been our experience, although that's changing. So she never came back. She never talked to him again. And he didn't ask for the money for himself or anything. He just said, this is what you need to do. And so this idea that you're talking about, getting through the eye of, the camel through the eye of the needle, or the love of money, is that it's the attachment to it to the extent of,
let me help you out.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett, who
I
think everybody's familiar with, had the best quote that deals with this.
Okay.
And he says, of the billionaires I have known, money just brings out the basic traits in them. If they were jerks before they had money, they were simply jerks with $1 billion.
Yeah.
And the way that I interpret that is to say that if someone is good and creates a lot of money, they will still be good. And if someone is corrupt and they become wealthy, they'll still be corrupt.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with the money changing them. It has everything to do with who they are when they start out.
Yeah. And I get that. And, but I just want to bring up a couple interesting things. I have watched people who were good. I've been very aware, because of my work, of the energy of money. And I've watched people who were very, very good to get a lot of money and continue to do good, and then continue to get money. And at a certain point of wealth, the influence of wealth changed them. And they started something shifted in the good that they were doing. And even if they continued to do some good things, there was still something now present that, whatever you want to call it, mud, darkness, something that just because if you roll around in money that's clean, you're going to be clean. And if you roll around in money that's dirty, it's going to be that. And I want to get back to, how we can help people, but I think this attachment to money is an important one, because what I love about you is that I have enough. We live the way that we live. There's one billionaire who, I think he's a billionaire, whatever it is, for years has been coming out and saying, you need to tax the rich. I don't care. He was so opposed to the whole concept of trickle-down economics. He said, when I get all this money, he said, I'm not going to, I only buy one pillow. I'm not going to, I'm one guy. I'm not going to consume as much as people who work for me. So we've got to be giving back. A brilliant man, like yourself, very good idea about this. But there is a story from India about this saint who was going on a reclusive saint, but people follow him.
Or something.
Pardon?
A sojourn or something.
Yeah, well, a pilgrimage. That's the
pilgrimage.
Term.
Yes.
Pilgrimage. Thank you. And so he was going to go, and some people were going to go with him. And one of the people was a merchant, and the sage told him. And this was actually Gurudev's teacher. I don't know the validity of the story. It's sometimes it's rumor, sometimes it's whatever. But I always like the story. And he told the merchant to give his money away. He wouldn't need it. But instead, the merchant buried it. Didn't tell anybody where he buried it, just buried it. And then they went, and they were gone for a long time, many, many months. And during the time that they were gone, he got ill and died. And then when they were coming back, at one point, the guru went to a particular spot in the woods and pointed to the ground and said to one of the people there to dig there. And so they dug there, and there was the guy's wealth with a snake coiled around it. And the guru picked up the snake and smashed it against a tree, killing it, and said, that freed him, you know, that now we freed him, now we can go on. And this is, I think, that level of, you know, and I love what your mother said, is you're not motivated by, not your mother, your wife, your wife said, you're not motivated by money, because I think that is what allows you to be generous. So, I think this is brilliant. It's those people who chase money with the belief that money will solve all their problems, and then they collect so much. I mean, there's rumors that, what is it, 200 people in the world, or even if it's 2,000, have half of the wealth of the world. If that was newspapers they were collecting, we'd take them to a shrink. We'd say, you got a problem, sir, if you think you need that much. So let's get back to you. Thank you for that little, allowing me the divergence there, but let's get back to you and talk about people's relationship with money. And you're talking about how the wealthy are different in what and how they view wealth. You're talking about how you yourself, with whatever qualifications you have, not necessarily coming from wealth, but pursuing all this. What's the next thing that you think somebody needs to know? They've come to you, you're asking questions. Where do we go from here?
I would say probably one of the things that shows up most often are people who have a lot of credit card debt.
Okay.
And they mistakenly believe that they need to focus on getting rid of their credit card debt before they can begin saving or investing for their future.
Okay.
And it's so sad to me that that's more society conditioning.
Exactly.
If you owe money, you have to pay off. Where
I'm sorry, say that again.
It's so sad to me where the credit issuers make people believe that they're more honorable paying off their debts when they're foisting all this debt onto people and trying to get college students and even high school students to take out credit cards like it's additional money and that it's not debt, and then charging usurious interest rates. And many years ago, I read an article about General Electric regarding their credit cards wanting to tack a $25 fee onto the accounts of people who paid off their credit card balances in full each month. Here's the logic behind it, and there's 2 points. One of them is they were going to penalize people for handling the credit cards effectively. And the second is the terminology they use for people who pay off their balances in full each month. And the terms that they use are freeloaders and deadbeats.
Yeah, I was going to say that I've heard that the credit card companies, I can't say about the people who work for the credit card companies, no, but the people, you know, if I'm assuming for people who work there like the rest of us, but the credit card, the people driving the credit cards are exactly that. They do not like people who pay their bills off because they're not making money off of them.
Exactly. And so what I'm getting at is they're manipulating language by calling people who handle credit effectively freeloaders and deadbeats, so that all they really care about is manipulating the population to put more money in their pocket. And so when I talk about people focusing on paying off their debts first, and I hear this from other, I'll call them financial gurus, that, oh, if you have an 18% credit card, pay that off first before you begin to save or invest. That's bad advice. And the reason it's bad advice is because if you start saving and investing, you're building a different muscle. It's like the difference between dieting versus working out and lifting weights. If I want to build muscles, I need to lift weights. If I need to create a passive income, I need to save or invest. If I want to lose weight, I diet. If I want to pay off credit cards, I focus on that. Those are two completely different things. And let me ask it in this way, David. If you had no debt, I'm not saying what you do have, I'm just saying if you have no debt, if you have no credit card debt, if you have no car loans, if you have no mortgages, if you have no debt, would that provide you financial freedom?
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
That's right. What's missing?
Some residual, some income coming in that I don't have to work for. Yeah.
Exactly. So either you need to continue working to develop that income, or you've set aside assets that generate that income, because you still want to buy food. You still need to pay utility bills. You might still want to buy gasoline for your automobile, even though it's paid off, or repair it. The point is, without the income, you don't have the financial freedom we're talking about. And just having no debt does not mean you've created a passive income.
So I like where we're going, and I just want to cover one more point about it, because you mentioned it. If you have a credit card that's at 18 or 27 or whatever ridiculous percent interest rate, and by the way, I am fascinated by credit cards companies charging these interest rates, because when I was a kid and I learned what the definition of loan shark was, what my father said, whoever said to me, it says, this is somebody who's going to charge a ridiculous level of interest, like 20%. That's a loan shark, where they're asking for them. Because when I was a kid, 1%, 2% was, that 3% loan was considered a reasonable or a good one.
Yeah.
And so, but here's what I want to get at, Rennie, is I'm using this. Somebody's got a credit card that they're paying 18% on. And I know you know the answer to this, but they're paying 18%. And they say, okay, so if I start saving money like you're telling me to, I might get, what do you get these days? 1%, 2%? Let's be generous. Let's say they find something where they can get 4%. Then mentally they're thinking, if I pay this off, instead of 18%, the difference between 4 and 18, I'm losing by saving money. And I know that's, with what you're saying, that's wrong thinking. So explain that to me.
Yeah, I'll explain it very easily. I actually put a chart in my book that says if you have, now, first I want to say that people can earn 12%, and it's not that difficult.
Okay.
And so when I'm talking about saving and investing, you have to save first so you can build up enough money so that you can then invest it.
Okay.
And I'm saying, and I've got enough documentation to say it's easy to earn 11 and 12%. And if you're paying 18% and you wait just 2 years to pay off an 18% interest debt that's $6,000 large, that 2 years that you delayed your savings and investment program down the line, 30 years from now, will have cost you $200,000 in lost investment earnings. Paying a $6,000 debt, focusing on that first, at the exclusion or the delay of beginning an investment program, you've lost $200,000. Now you tell me, if you weigh $6,000 of paying off a debt and you've lost $200,000 in investment earnings you could have had, is that a good trade-off?
Yeah, and I love that. I love that you're saying this, because what people think about is, again, I'm looking at the details. I'm looking at the drainage while I'm crossing the street and a truck is coming at me. So this idea of, we start, as soon as we get out of the 14 or 18%, and I need to pay it off in this year's, and if I could only make this, or even if I'm making 12%, I'm still losing 6%. So in 2 years, it's going to cost me X amount of dollars. And I love what you're saying, is you got to get out of the 2 years. You got to be thinking, a little more long term. So I think that's perfect. Okay, what else?
It actually involves two things. It's exactly what you said. It's looking at the big picture instead of the details. And it's also taking into consideration, oh my gosh, I remembered one of them and I forgot the second one. And it's, gosh. Oh, and it's the comparison I use between dieting and building muscles.
Yes, and I love that it's apples and oranges. You're not talking about, it's actually apples and Legos. They're so unrelated that it's a different thing. It's, well, shall I eat the apples or shall I,
or should I lift weights? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that, because most of us I think, and I assume you'll agree with this, but maybe you're wrong, most of us lump all of money into one category. And I have the bag of gold, or I have the income coming in, and we don't differentiate the different facets of it. And, I don't know if they teach how to balance a checkbook in school anymore, but checkbooks are obsolete, but they never did when I was growing up. And so,
they still don't.
Yeah. So, so one of the things I'm hearing from you is the first thing is we need to stop lumping all our money together and saying, I have this, now how am I going to break it up? And instead, again, a big picture of thing is say, this is the life I want to create. This is my current resources. So how do I make that work? So you had an income of $5K a month and you built it up to something. So what, again, somebody's coming at you and maybe they have $2K a month and maybe their expenses are basically $2K a month because that's how all of us have been taught to live. In fact, we've all been taught to live, except for those who have figured out something, that if I earn $2K a month, I'm probably spending 24, 26, 30, whatever it is.
As a matter of fact, it's so interesting you came up with that figure, because one of the people who came into my program was earning was receiving $2,000 a month. And so what I was able to see, again, because I start by asking questions, not telling them anything about what to do, I was able to see he was able to handle that $2,000 very effectively. He was able to be very frugal with what he was doing. So what we spoke about was how to increase his income. And that's one of the things that I learned after going broke, was that I needed to focus on my expenses first and my income second. Once the expenses are handled, the income can grow easily and you don't live into this new income you're earning, and you're able to do more with it. You're able to do the saving, you're able to do the investing. But what most people do instead, as they earn more income, their standard of living increases. And they really never get anywhere other than having more things instead of having more money.
I had an aunt and uncle on my mother's side, and he worked in the military. And every time they gave him a promotion, what they did was they took whatever they kept the standard of living where they were. They took the promotion money and shoved that in the bank or whatever. This is 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, or whatever. And so every time, they only got an income. The second promotion would be when they move up to what the current so all the money was always extra. They just were living okay. We're feeding the kids. People have clothes. So, and it sounds like you're talking, where we just want to be able to have a better. I think it boils down to what you said about you. I have enough money. I'm living the life that I need. I don't need more money. And I think that the ability to realize that alone, just exactly what you're saying, is when most people get more money, we've been programmed, increase your level of income. Whether it's status or comfort, or why not have a better car? Why not have a...
Yeah, Wall Street is not your friend in this situation. They are absolutely your enemy. You're only going to be a good person unless you buy our toothpaste, our mouthwash, drive this kind of car, drink this beer. And it's all about consuming as much as possible, because if you're not buying what they're advertising, you're not a good person.
So let me ask you this. We're still in the whatever week of the coronavirus thing going on. So everybody's still in lockdown. Do you think with your program and with the economy and all of do you think there's going to be a shift in several things based on what's going on now? Because a lot of us aren't able to, we can't go out and buy a new car right now because the car dealer's closed. We can't go to the fancy restaurant as opposed to the other, because even if we can, it's just pick it up curbside, So do you think this will help undo that mindset that you were just talking about?
I only temporarily, because if you look at the advertising on TV now, the car dealers are saying, we'll deliver the car to you. You don't even have to pay us for 90 days. They are still wanting people to purchase these items, and they're coming up with whatever creative ways they can come up with to offload their inventory. And I guarantee that it'll be short-lived. And if you look at what happened over 100 years ago in 1918 with the Spanish flu pandemic, the roaring 20s followed right afterwards. And I don't, human beings basically have not changed evolutionary wise in thousands of years. And I look at the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, that describes something in the way people behaved 5,000 years earlier. And when I compare that to the way people behave today, there is no change in evolution.
Some of us believe that the change that's going on is part of that. And I don't want to get into this much with this, but one of the things that I'm questioning is, I hear what you're saying about what the car dealers are offering. What my question is are the people buying? It doesn't matter what you offer. It doesn't, when I can't go out, I don't care what you're offering me as a car, because I don't care if you're not going to charge me for 90 days. I don't know if in 90 days I'll be able to go out. I don't know if I can return to my job. I don't know what my income, my concern is what people are doing, not what the advertisers are doing, because I think you're right. They're going to do whatever they can. But what I want to do, having said that,
let me interrupt you, because as I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking you're right, because there's something very different from what happened 100 years ago to today. I believe there is more consciousness on the planet. There are more people like you promoting a way of getting centered. It's looking within to see who you are, looking to see how you can benefit other people on the planet. And I'm thinking there is more of that occurring now than there was 100 years ago. And perhaps there will be a shift. So I'm coming around to the idea that I think that's a wonderful possibility.
Because, and that is one of the things that excites me, because if it does, I think we're going to have a civilization of people like you, who I have enough, what can I do to help other people? And sometimes even to the point of just what you said earlier, if your income from your projects aren't covering how much you want to be giving, you're going to pull it out and give it to them anyway, because that's who you are. And, what a wonderful world if that becomes the dominating trait of, most of the people. That's a very exciting world to want to live in, where people are concerned about that. Yeah.
And I see that as a possibility, because I am very connected with so many people who I would call heart-centered entrepreneurs, who are concerned about making a difference on the planet, who care about what's happening to other people, care about what's happening to the planet. And it's like the fable or story of the 100th monkey. Once the 100th monkey learns how to use tools, all monkeys learn how to use tools. Once there's enough people on the planet caring about other people on the planet, there will be that shift.
I want to take this minute and give a shout out to our program, the Peace and Harmony. You can go to peaceandharmonydownload.com. It's a free program. You don't even have to opt in. It's a quantum energy program that plays silently, and it generates peace and harmony around you, especially at this time when people find they're locked up in close quarters, and some people find that tensions rise. We've talked to so many people who have used the program, downloaded it, played it, and it just is like a switch. People just calm down and settle down. So I want to encourage all the listeners, to share it with other people, and certainly to use it yourself. peaceandharmonydownload.com, completely free. Don't even have to opt in. I think we've peaked enough. I think anybody who's stayed with us through now is going to know that you're a very valuable resource that I want to talk to you more and find out more about this stuff, which is exactly what I think how we want to help people, is give them enough to know where to begin, and then everyone's one's own responsibility. What parting words do you want to say? Is there anything that you feel you'd like to say that we haven't gotten around to yet?
And I have said it, and I want to repeat it, and it's that wealth creation and almost anything that people want to do in life in terms of transformation involves a team. It is not a solo sport. Whether you're going to a yogi, whether you're going to a minister, whether you're going to a business coach, whether you have an accountability partner, it makes no difference. There's no successful business and there's no successful transformation that happens without more than one person being involved.
So that's perfect. So if they, I know you said you'd give away, let's recap what you want to give people so they can contact you and follow up. Your website is
wealthonanyincome.com. And if they send an email to me from there, actually requesting the book Attitudes of the Wealthy, I will email a pre-release copy to them. It's not a part of a landing page. It's not a part of an opt-in. They just have to ask for it, and I will send it out to them.
Okay, and then, but I also know you do have, wait a minute. No, I had to close the browser. I had it open. You do have something that that they can get also?
If they do opt in, they can get a roadmap to the steps to create complete financial choice. They can view my TEDx video where I talk about some of these things as well. And again, if they go to wealthonanyincome.com and they do /TEDx, they can get a lot more resources.
Good. And then, so how does it work? A lot of people are very shy about opting in because they feel now I'm going to just get emails and everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, we get that. But there are people who want to opt in and they want to know, if I opt in, look, I'm not a book reader. I mean, I read books, but that's not how that's not how I get information. I get information this way, talking auditorially. My wife gets information reading books, and if you look at a book after she's read it, she's highlighted the entire book, but that's how she gets it, So if somebody wants to pursue this, if they get on their email list, how does it, and maybe they want to reach you or something and work with you one-on-one, what programs do you have? How far can they go working with you?
They can take one of my programs where they have 12 months of group support. And the easiest thing to do, if they opt in, they'll just get a series of helpful emails. They will not be receiving a barrage of marketing material.
Okay.
It's not what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And do you still take one-on-one clients, or?
No, I'm glad you asked that. No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. There are very few one-on-one clients that I take on, and I could explain personally why that is, but I do group coaching.
Okay, so that's cool. Good. I want to just check and see if there's anything else I can, what other questions people, I think we're good. I think, the big thing is this is what I want to say. I love you. I love what you're doing. I love your balanced appreciation of life, of knowing that you've reached a level of, I'm sure that you could go out if you wanted to and keep all the money instead of giving it to, and I want to get the web,
Let me pronounce it, sheltertosoldier.org.
Yes, that one. Thank you. Slipping in a couple of letters there. Because I think that's just, I'm sure that if you wanted to, you could save up and get a new jet and get a house on another, all of this. Yeah. And the recognition that does not make you more fulfilled than it does to help these people who have, this is specifically soldiers who have done something, noble for others and are paying a very heavy price for them, and to be able to honor them, I think that speaks so highly of you, and I just want to honor that, and I appreciate that. So, and I also wanted to give another shout out to the shelter2soldier.org for those who want to take advantage of that. So, any last thing, anything? I don't want to cut you off.
Just that it was an honor to be on the program, David. Thank you for the opportunity, and again, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I really think that there's a big change going on. I'm very optimistic about the future. I have a vision that the ideal world is coming. And I think how people choose to work with money, handle money, to respect themselves, which the bottom line is what you're talking about. Bottom line is you have to take care of you and not be so concerned about people who, we talked about the credit card companies, they only care about you. I don't even want to go there.
Yeah.
But I love this idea of respect yourself, take care of yourself. I love that we've hinted about ways to do that. And I encourage everyone to take advantage of going to your website, which is, wealthonanyincome.com. Take advantage of your programs. And I really think that, more people like you and people in our audience who wish well of others and live a comfortable life and share that, I think it's doable. I think the world can be fabulous again, or for the first time. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, David.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to another helpful, fun, and life-changing episode of Here We Come to Save the Day with David Adelson. To access the show notes and additional resources, go to herewecometosavetheday.com. If you've enjoyed the show and find it helpful and fun, please leave us a review and share with a friend. Tell us issues troubling you or questions you have. We're here to help you. That's what Here We Come to Save the Day is all about. Till next time.